Be sure to go to flipsidegaming.com and use promo code 6 for 10% off on orders over $10. It's a good deal. Helps with the show. Today's sponsor is also brought to you by my Twitter account. Follow me. It's, I don't know, I post memes sometimes, questions. Who cares? No one cares. What's up, Planeswalkers? Theorix6 back with some more Ikoria season spoilers. Today we're going to be looking at some more spoilers for Ikoria. Yay. The Ozolith is a 1-mana legendary artifact. Whenever a creature you control leaves the battlefield, if it had counters on it, put those counters on the Ozolith. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if the Ozolith has counters on it, you may move all counters from the Ozolith onto target creature. There are a lot of interesting little aspects here that are important to point out. One, whenever a creature leaves the battlefield. Doesn't matter if it dies, gets exiled, bounces, flickers. As long as it transitions from the battlefield to elsewhere, you put counters on the Ozolith. This doesn't just say +1/+1 counters. Any counter. If it's a gosh, what are those dumb dudes called? It's like a 5-mana Azorius card that has like elocution counters or some nonsense, and you have a certain number and you win the game or some nonsense. But things like that. If you have the new keyword counters, vigilance, trample, all those, they can go onto the Ozolith. But interestingly, let's say you have a Sarkhan the Masterless, and you turn it into a creature, and then he dies during combat. Those loyalty counters are going to go on the Ozolith. And then technically, at the beginning of your turn, if you have another Planeswalker that's a creature, you can put counters onto it. It'll get potentially some superfluous counters, but still. It's, so it works with things like Sarkhan, Gideon, speaking about the things that are in Standard right now. So that's cool. At the beginning of combat on your turn, okay, it's a bit limited in scope. That's fine. If the Ozolith has counters on it, you may move all counters from the Ozolith. It does kind of suck that you have to move all of them, but I think they kind of needed to do that for balance reasons. If you could just just pick and choose, just all right, no, I'm going to give this to this time and this blah blah. So you're going to have redundant counters on here, potentially with things like keyword counters. But still, it's fine. You still get to move those counters, and unless the Ozolith gets bounced or something, which is actually something I'll talk about in a second, actually. So I'll shut the hell up. But you're going to be able to get a use out of those counters, even if that creature that you move the counters to gets removed. You get to store them back on the Ozolith. And the last thing is, from the Ozolith onto target creature. It doesn't have to be a creature you control, which is awesome. Political stuff in EDH. Technically, you could just give negative counters. Oh, baby. I can play this into Scorpion God, one of my commander decks, and when I use combos to kill my own creatures with my -1/-1 counters, they'll go onto the Ozolith. Then during my combat, I can load them all onto one big creature, and it dies. I don't get the counters put back on the Ozolith, but still, I'm double dipping -1 counters. I might put that in that deck. But still, the fact that you can do something like that is a thumbs up for me. I'm so glad it doesn't say target creature you control. There is one of the big issues with this card, in that it's if they remove the Ozolith, then you lose access to those counters. I think it's fair. This is a 1-mana artifact. It's whatever. It would be super if you could move them onto a creature if this gets moved, but I think it's fine. Partial Beast. This is what the actual one looks like. Excuse me. So this is a Beast of Burden, I suppose, that you send out to send things. Sure. This is a 4-mana 2 green/blue for an elemental beast 2/4. It has mutate green and blue, but this one doesn't have a mutate trigger, interestingly. That doesn't actually care about mutations at all. Pay 1 and tap it. Look at the top card of your library. If it's a land card, you may put it onto the battlefield. If you don't put that card on the battlefield, put it into your hand. That seems pretty good. It doesn't put it on the battlefield tapped. It just puts it on the battlefield, and if it doesn't, you get to draw a card. As a 4-mana 2/4, this card honestly just seems fine in an elemental deck. Imagine, for example, you play this with Risen Reef. you can play it for 4. You get your Risen Reef counter. Or you can mutate it onto the Risen Reef, making the Risen Reef a little bit less vulnerable because it becomes a 2/4. You put it on top, obviously. And then, because what I'm hearing from the rules is that you actually are going to be able to use the creature immediately because it is the same creature. It doesn't have new summoning sickness. You can then use this ability, which is hilarious. I think this card is awesome. Is it going to see play in good decks? I don't know. But if nothing else, it's something you can put in an elemental deck that cares about ramping and stuff. I will say the artist's name scares me because this is 1 letter off of my first name. This is 1 letter off of my sister's first name. And then it's 1 letter off of my hyphenated last name. It's creepy. Hornbash Mentor. We have a couple of these mentors. This is a 3-mana 3/3 human warrior. When it enters the battlefield, put a trample counter on target non-human creature you control, and then you can pay 3 and tap it to put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control with trample. So this is another interesting. This is an interesting card that cares about the specific counters you're putting on creatures. By itself, it's totally fine. You know, it's a 3-mana 3/3, so I think in limited this is a decent pick, especially if you're going to be able to get. Hello, are you waking up? You want to come here? Come here, Jobs. No, she fell down. Come here. I gotta show you to the people. I have to get the internet clout. There you go, Ketchups. There you go. There you go, Ketchups. You just hang right there for the rest of the thing. Yeah, so I think this is probably pretty fine of a card in limited. Because if nothing else, right? You can make one of your creatures bigger with trample. And I mean, that's not technically the worst. The worst is just a 3-mana 3/3, which is fine. Oh, do you want to get down? You want to? Okay. There you go. Fight is 1. Just getting back in the box. 1 mana instant. Choose 1 or both. Target human creature you control gets +1/+1 and gains indestructible until end of turn. Target non-human creature you control does the same. There's been some talk about the fact that Feather is an angel, and 10th District Legionnaire is a human. Oh, I do not look forward to that deck. It buffs 2 of your creatures, protects them both, and with Feather out, you get this back. And you don't even have to use Feather. You can use this with Dreadhorde Arcanist, right? You give it to Arcanist and Legionnaire, bada bing, bada boom. I'm scared. Screep Friend, right? It's a 2-mana 2/2 beast. Whenever a creature you control mutates, put a 1/1 counter on the creature, and you gain 2 life. This card seems fine. This is a bear with upside in limited. If you're playing some sort of casual mutate deck in standard, I expect you're going to want some base creatures to mutate onto. This seems like a fun one. It gets a little bit bigger, you gain some life. Sure. Weaponize the monsters. 1-mana enchantment. Red. Pay 2, sacrifice a creature, weaponize the monsters, deals 2 damage to any target. This card is not good. Nah, the mana cost I think is too much. Not the initial investment. The initial investment, frankly, like could be 4 if that 2 was a 1 instead. It still wouldn't be playable, but it'd be, I don't know if it'd be more playable, but it'd be more reasonable. As is right now, 2 mana plus sacrifice a creature I think is a little bit too much. It's nice that you can like get extra damage by like sacking a creature that's already going to die, but I think there's just better options for that anyway. Flock of Resistance is 1 Azorius, 3 mana for a 2/2 human wizard that flies. Creatures you control with flying, have spells your opponents cast that target this creature, cost 2 more to cast. This can go straight into the Azorius flying deck in Historic. I don't know if they have room. Also, this isn't a bird. Although I don't think right now there's any bird synergy in the deck. I think it's right now just flying, so it shouldn't matter too much. But I don't know if they have a need for this card. They might. And if they do, I think this is a totally reasonable card to play. Supercharger is a 4-mana 3/3 dinosaur. Whenever Supercharger attacks, if it doesn't have first strike, put a first strike counter on it. Okay. Whenever Supercharger attacks, if it has first strike, it gains double strike. Now, the way this works, right? You enter combat, you attack with it. That trigger goes on the stack. It didn't have a first strike counter. You put 1 on it. Okay. the trigger hath resolved. We're in the rest of the combat step. The following turn, or if you put a counter on it some other way, now it attacks. It has a first strike counter on it, so now you gain double strike. You're not going to get double strike as soon as you attack with this card. It seems fine and limited. Oh, wait, where did you go? Oh, there you are. This card. Oh, the pièce de résistance. So good. I love it. 2 mana, Heartless Act, instant, choose one. Destroy target creature with no counters on it, or remove up to 3 counters from target creature. That says up to 3 counters. That makes me a little bit more sad, but at the same time, I don't care, because this says, essentially, better than Doomblade. Sure, there are going to be creatures that you cannot hit with this, because they have counters on it. In Standard, this card is worse than it is in other formats, because there's going to be a glut of creatures that are going to have incidental counters placed on them. That's fine. But where I'm looking at this is historic. Now, obviously, you have the Lifegain deck that has Giant's Pridemate. Because this costs 2 mana, you can kill the Pridemate before it gets counters put on it. And if it doesn't, just kill one of the other creatures. Obviously, that's not the best scenario, but still, like, just consider the different creatures you can just murder. Obviously, in Standard, obviously, there's just a bunch that are, this is going to suck against. You have things like Steamkin, you have things like Krasis. However, there's a reverse to that, where you have things like Nissa lands, right? The Nissa who shakes the world, I think? Those are land creatures with their 0/0s with 3/1/1 counters on it. So if you remove those counters, the creatures are going to die. So I think this is going to be a fantastic piece of removal. It's honestly probably still going to see a lot of play in Standard, because it says remove up to 3 counters from target creature. So you can choose, like, all right, it has 2+1/+1 counters and a trample counter. I'm going to go ahead and remove all of those, and now it's less good. It's an instant, so you can do this during combat, make something smaller, big enough, or small enough for you to kill it via blocking or what have you. And then, of course, just in general, this is a relatively easy hurdle to get through for a black Doomblade, right? Doomblade is... I can't remember if Doomblade is just non-black. It might be non-black, non-artifact. No, just non-black. So Doomblade, for a long time, was just like the post... First of all, this art is fantastic. Like the poster child of, like, what dies to Doomblade, right? If it dies to Doomblade, it's not as good. We've had things like Go for the Throat. We've had things like Cast Down. This, in my opinion, is probably the easiest restriction to deal with. Especially considering the fact that the rest of the card allows you to deal with a situation where you couldn't kill it. You would just be able to depower it. Love the card. Absolutely fantastic. Reptilian Mirroring is a 3 mana red enchantment. Whenever you cycle a card, Reptilian Mirroring becomes a 5/4 dinosaur creature with trample and haste in addition to its other types until end of turn. It doesn't have any cost in turning it into a creature, which I really appreciate. It gives itself haste, which is good. It means that the turn you play it, if you cycle, you can get advantage out of it. Has trample, has good stats for the cost. It does dodge sorcery speed removal. So you're not, it's not going to die against something like a Ritual of Soots or any white-based board wipe, essentially. Of course, there's Teferi, which messes that entire thing up. The main issue, I think, with this card is that I think this needs to be in a cycle-focused deck. And I don't know if there are enough good cycle cards for that to work. Like you in cycle-focused decks, I personally, I could be super wrong, I personally prefer to have as many cards that are actual, like, spells also have cycling. So if this had cycling, even if it was for like 5, I'd like it a lot more, because then, like, the extra copies could enable themselves, and obviously, like, you could just play the extra copies, then you get more dinosaurs and stuff. I definitely love the card. Probably more of a limited card where you can grab a lot of decent cycling, is my guess, but I'm not sure. Helica Glider is a 3 mana 2/2 Nightmare Squirrel. And it looks fucking horrifying. Do you see how many eyes this thing has? My dude has 6 eyes, green ass teeth, freaking like I don't know what these ears like. This is a nightmare squirrel. I'm horrified. It scares me. It enters the battlefield with your choice of a flying counter or a first strike counter. Yep. That is a limited card, but my god, it's horrifying. Officer du Poste de Contrôle. Checkpoint Officer is a 2-mana 1/2 human soldier. Pay 2, tap target creature. It's the set's Ballynock Trapper. Something like that. Whatever. These cards are usually good in battlecruiser metas. It seems like with Mutate, this is probably going to be a battlecruiser meta. I expect this card to be decent. Splendor Mare. Mare, I believe, is a female horse. I understand that unicorns and I think elks are both related ungulates, obviously assuming that unicorns aren't real. But it does not say horse on it. In a set where there's a bunch of cards with 3 creature types, why couldn't this just be elk, horse, unicorn? Make it all 3. You called it a mare. This is rude. Anyway, it's a 3-mana 3/3 elk unicorn with lifelink. Not bad. It has cycling for 1 and a white. Not bad. Whenever you cycle, Splendor Mare, put a lifelink counter on target creature control. Not bad. I like the card. It's just it's very Melvin for me. I just like the fluidity of the goodness of the design. Do I think it's going to see play anywhere? I don't know. Majestic Auricorn. Auricorn. Is that gold horned unicorn? I don't know. 5 mana for a 4/4 vigilant unicorn with mutate for 4. Whenever this creature mutates, you gain 4 life. It's just okay. I could be wrong, but it feels just okay. Spontaneous Flight is a 3-mana instant. Target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Put a flying counter on it. I like this card. It's a different take on the instant speed gives something a boost in flying because it gives it a counter, which means it's going to continually be able to use that flying. Really cool. You can use this as a combat trick in Limited to surprise block some other flyer and then swing at them in the air since they're flyers. Hopefully. Gone. It's cool. I like it. Garrison Cat is a 1-mana 1/1 cat. When it dies, create a 1/1 human soldier creature token. This is Doom Traveler, but different. Starts off as a cat. Moving on. For what it's worth, this card could see some play in some sort of like human aristocrats deck in standard/historic. If you're going to have a white aristocrats deck anyway, you like effects like these where you have extra things to sacrifice. So yeah, I could see this seeing some decent play in like a fringe sacrifice deck, running things like the DJ and the weird lady who comes with a goat. Alert Heedbonder is a 1 Selesnya 2/4 human scout with vigilance. We see some more good stuff with vigilance. At the beginning of your end step, you gain 1 life for each creature you control with vigilance. Sure. The vigilance deck, the power of the meme will be determined by how well it can deal with control. It seems like plenty of big asses. This should be alright against super aggressive decks. We'll see how they do against control. And then we're moving on to the last ones, which are going to be on spoiler. Keensight Mentor, another one of those mentors. 3 mana for a 1/4 human cleric. When the Keensight Mentor enters the battlefield, put a vigilance counter on target non-human you control. 1 and white and tap, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control with vigilance. Sure. It's another one of the mentors. Seems fine. Sanctuary Smasher is a 4 red, first strike, 6/4 Rhino Beast with first strike. I think I said that. Cycling, 2 and a red. When you cycle Sanctuary Smasher, put a first strike counter on target creature you control. I like these cards. It's just like the unicorn. Nope, that unicorn. I like the cards where you cycle them and you get a counter on the thing. Oh, it has it right here, and it has this one and this one. Hey, wow! It's like it's a cycle. It's like it's a cycle. See what I did there? Of the cycle, honestly, I feel like the white one actually just might be the best. Death Touch counter. The Death Touch one's also pretty decent. Death Touch one's probably the best. I think it's probably Death Touch 1, Lifelink 1. Is there a flying one that I haven't seen yet? Because I assume the Thesaurus is just the 3. There might be I assume it's a flying one, and it's probably better, to be honest. Bushmeat Poacher is a 4-mana black human soldier. It's a 2/4. Pay 1, tap, sacrifice another creature. You gain life equal to that creature's toughness. Draw a card. I like the card draw. It is a human, so it can go in some sort of human-centric sacrifice deck. I feel like Woe Strider is just, generally speaking, better. Even Iara down there is, generally speaking, better, unless, of course, the mana base just isn't nice for it. It's more of a limited card, I think. Sacrifice another creature, you gain life. Let's see what's toughness. Draw a card. Yeah. Seems like more of a limited card. You sacrifice a creature that's already going to die. You know, it has a fatter ass than a fist, so more likely that the card is going to be on D anyway. Yeah. Kind of a short one today, but that's fine. I'm doing daily, and I usually don't, but they've been consistent in putting out the preview cards, so yeah, I'll be consistent in putting out the preview videos. I'd like to thank my lovely patrons, especially Zen, for continued support. If you'd like to join them and support the show, you'll find links to that down in the description below. Cat's not sleeping in her box right now, which is just weird, but whatever. If you like the cat, go ahead and tap that like button, add subscription to our mana pool, cast to come to the comment section down below, pass the turn of the vid to some of your friends. I'm trying to, like, I'm going to exploit my cat for internet points at some point. On one of these upcoming videos, I'm just going to be like, if we get this video with a certain number of likes, then I'll buy like a special cat toy and then make a video of the cats. Yes, exploit the cat for internet fame and glory. Good. Anyway, until next time, I'll be one.